Welcome to Missoula's Historic Preservation Awards 2004. I'm Rafael Chacon, one of the Historic Preservation Commission members, and I'm actually here as a stand-in, not as a stand-up comedian, but just as a stand-in. As you know, our Historic Preservation Officer this year, Philip Mecklin, who would normally be doing this program, is in residence in New York City, where his wife is doing a poetry residence. And then we replaced him with Alan Matthews, who's our former Historic Preservation Officer, who returned to sort of fill in for the 6 months that he's going to be, that Philip is away. And as some of you know, Alan Matthews had a terrible accident, a car wreck, so he had to sort of step down. But he's here, bravo! There's Alan Matthews. And so we now have an interim Historic Preservation Officer, Suzanne Julien, but unfortunately she can't be here, so you get me. And back when I used to have a little bit more hair, I looked more like Billy Crystal, so this might be more like the Oscars, and you might get a good joke or something, but alas, you won't even get that. Anyway, so we have 3 major cats gone, out of the nest or whatever, so when the cats are away, the mice will certainly play. I mean, just think about what we could do when these guys are gone. I mean, we could demolish all kinds of structures in this town, nominate all kinds of monstrosities, to the National Registry. I mean, we could, bulldoze a few monuments around here. And by the way, since our powers as a commission are so ill-defined, I mean, we could have endless power here. Wow. Anyway, we have actually, in spite of the fact that our leadership is far away tonight, we have a lot to celebrate. And I think Missoula is a town that should definitely be proud of historic preservation, this unbelievable grassroots movement that all of us in this room are participants in. And we have a lot of awards to make tonight, so my job will be to keep this whole process as brisk as possible. But first of all, I want to do a few introductions. And first, we'll start with the Historic Preservation Commission. And I'd like the members to just stand up and let's hold the applause until everybody's been introduced. So probably the oldest, not the oldest member, well, yes, the oldest member, but the longest serving member on the commission is Dorothy Ogg. Dorothy, would you please stand? And then we have Cynthia Manning, who's our president. Cynthia, would you please stand? And her vice president, Stan Cohen, former president of the commission. Ann Emmons, Mike Monzos, Philip Persick, Cynthia White, Jim McDonald, Steve Adler, Jennifer Anthony, Jeff Ralston-Clemmer, and myself. So please applaud now for me. And before we actually applaud for the nominees and the award winners tonight, we also need to thank a couple of people who have done a remarkable job, not just with this award ceremony, but stepping in as our historic preservation officers have been away. And those people are Beth Hubble, Cindy Wolfenkuhl. Cindy, are you here? Please stand. There she is over in the back. And Mike Barton, where's Mike is going to be running the slides here in a second. Would you please give a round of applause for these folks? And lastly, 2 people who have indefatigable energies here with regard to this award ceremony. Vicki Flesher, who loves the ceremony. She's a former board member. Please stand. And Dorothy, again, who is one of the contributors to these beautiful awards that you see here. So thank you, Dorothy and Vicki. The program this evening is going to run as follows. We're going to look first at at a slideshow. So you'll have a chance to see these properties. And then after we do the slideshow, then we'll have an opportunity to actually meet the participants, the people who are receiving the awards tonight. And then we'll hear some anecdotes about the process of restoration and bringing back some of these amazing buildings or contributing to amazing buildings in Missoula. So let's begin with the ceremony, and I'll just, with the slideshow, and I'll just have a few comments about these buildings as we move along. The first award is a property at 1003 Sherwood, and this award is for residential new construction compatible with, we're ready? What's that? No. Here we go. Here. Oh, there we go. What's that? Yeah. Okay, there we go. Okay, this is the Alexander Couch home at 1003 Sherwood, and this is the award is for residential new construction compatible with an older house. And as you can see, this is a lovely Queen Anne style house, a vernacular Queen Anne on a corner lot. And there we go. And the award is for that compatible addition of that beautiful front porch that you see there. We have a few images following. Let's go on to the next image, showing you what the original porch looked like. This was a pretty humble little entryway, and then what the porch looks like now. The columns that you see on this house, or that you saw in this house, actually came from an older farmhouse that was off Second, or on Second Street. This is a construction shot, actually. These are not the columns from the old farmhouse. Yes. So I'm gonna just come back here. I'll just keep my mouth shut. All right, there we go. All right, beautiful. Okay, 1003 Sherwood. All right, the second award. The second award is for public and private organizations, sites, and landscapes, and this award goes to Stoverud's Jewelry for the replacement of the clock, which you can see there in the photograph. This clock, as many of you know, was practically destroyed in 1997 when it was hit by a truck. And the clock that we have here, although it's not an old clock, it's a very close replica of the clock that has stood there at this very famous meeting site in Missoula for a long, long, long time. The clock was probably placed there in the early 20th century. Okay, the third award is at 420 North Patty, and this is the Trask Apartments. In addition to the Trask Apartments, the award is for commercial new construction compatible with the historic district. And as you can see from this building, it looks like a building that was built in the first 2 decades of the 20th century. Now, there was an old house here, this historic home, this little blue house. This house was moved to Evero, and it's now serving as an antique store in Evero. So we've saved one building, and there you see the house being moved, or at least in 2 places, and then this is what has replaced on the same lot. So there's the addition on the far left. So the Trask Apartments, commercial new construction compatible with the historic district. Okay, the fourth award, found at 120 West Broadway, is currently Bob Soenbach, and the award is for commercial renovation and rehabilitation. This is a wonderful little Art Moderne building downtown with a fabulous Art Deco facade, so this is actually a historic photo showing the original entrance there on the left with that canopy that you see there. There is a new canopy that was added to the building, but it is in the spirit of the older canopy, provides a little more protection for the windows and the entrance to the building. So there's another historic photo of the building, a shot of the interior, The renovation was pretty extensive inside the building, but I think truly the wonderful part is this facade that does justice to a building from the 1930s and 40s. Bob Soenbach. Okay, the next award for commercial renovation and rehabilitation goes to Frida Picasso's. And this building was originally known as the Jacobson Building, and until very recently, we didn't know that this was designed by Missoula's best-known architect, A.J. Gibson, from the turn of the century. And this is in its previous incarnation as Northwest Distributors, when much of the facade was covered up. But as you can see from the next set of images, this is during the construction. The glazing, the windows, the original doorway was virtually intact. And the owners have done a marvelous job of bringing back this facade and the interior as well. This is a building, by the way, that was built around 1908, when not long after the Higgins Street Bridge brought more business from down Higgins onto the south side of Missoula. And these are shots of the interior of the building as in its present incarnation. This is the former Jacobson Building, now known as Frida Picasso's. For many, many years, it was also the Montana Meat Market. So for commercial renovation and rehabilitation. The spaces that you're in are receiving this award, the interior renovations of the Florence. Here's some of the historic photos. This is a marvelous building. It's probably our finest Art Moderne building in Missoula, with all these marvelous Art Deco details. And the beauty of this meticulous restoration is in those details. This is a lovely building, and I invite you to spend a lot of time hugging every bit of travertine, every bit of polished stone. It's a beautiful, beautiful building, and we're very proud of the wonderful restorations. By the way, that is all gone now. That balcony is now exposed, and actually you walked right through it when you came in. So, the Florence for commercial restoration of original construction. The next award goes to a property at 314 North First, and this is, of course, the famous Stensrud building. And the award is for commercial restoration of original construction. This building dates back to about 1890. It's one of the oldest buildings in our downtown on the north side. It's really a venerable anchor to that whole neighborhood, and it has been loved for a long time, as you can see from these restoration photos. So the Stensrud for commercial restoration of an original construction. Okay, the next award is for residential maintenance and repair, and this goes to this beautiful house on the corner of East Spruce, and this is the Shannon House. This is another vernacular Queen Anne style house, and we'll see how it looked just a few years ago. This is actually a house that's been in the works in terms of its restoration or renovations. It's been in the works for about 9 years. And many of the materials used on the building are actually salvage materials for a number of different places surrounding Missoula, historic homes here in Missoula, but also in St. Ignatius. There are parts that also came from the Palace Hotel, all fitting with the character of this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful house. 240 East Spruce. And finally, the 10th award and the final award goes to Bob Holman for his contributions. No, let's applaud. This is a great award. This is for Bob Holman for his contributions to the restoration of the Wilma. The Wilma, as many of you know, is a much beloved building in downtown Missoula. It really is the anchor building in our downtown. Most of you sort of know that this building was done by Ole Baki, but what most of you don't know is that Missoula's first 3 great architects all worked on this building. A.J. Gibson came out of retirement to advise and consult with Ole Baki, and the young H.E. Kirkemo cut his teeth on this building. So it's a really remarkable, remarkable building. And the restorations that have been done in its interior of late have done much to bring back and revive this building, which we all love, and we hope will see a very, very bright future in our downtown. So Bob Holman, thank you. Okay, and now without much ado, let's move on to the awarding of the awards. So, Cynthia? Okay, yeah, and can we get some more light up? As you know, no project is done by any single individual or even owner. So we have a lot of people to thank tonight. And also you should know that not just the owners of these properties are being awarded here, but also many of the contractors, many of the architects, the designers, all the different players that it takes to bring these projects to fruition. So for the Alexander Couch Home, would Denise Alexander and John Couch please step forward? And the owners have asked us, in fact, if we could name the individuals who, and many of you are here, who've also contributed to the project, and we will be awarding the certificates to the rest of you after the ceremony. So and the folks that the Mr. Alexander and Mr. Couch and Miss Alexander would like to thank are Eric Grivens of Blue Sage Renovation. Is Eric here? Would you please stand? Folks have a word that you'd like to tell us?
Oh, I'd love to. I could spend the whole time up here. I have a lot to say about the project, specifically about Eric. You mentioned all of the people involved with it. Well, designer, architect, excavation, contractor, builder, just extraordinaire. Eric's basically designed and built our porch for us with some ideas from us, and he just took it and ran with it. So we were very fortunate to find Eric's. Thank you.
I guess I just wanted to start from the very beginning and thank Alan and Cynthia Matthews for letting us know that our house was for sale a couple of years ago, and we were so excited to be able to buy it. And then Bill Grady, who sold the house to us and waited patiently for 3 months in order for us to be able to buy it. He did a wonderful job of restoration even before we purchased it. And then John was inspired from the very beginning. He knew we needed a porch, and so we set aside money when we purchased it so we could build a porch onto our house and enjoy our neighborhood from it. And then we were just really lucky to get Eric's because he was able to sort of help us realize our vision, and he did an excellent job at designing it and knowing what we wanted and pulling it off, even with the strange roof pitch that he had to work out. So we had drainage from the porch and the roof and everything else, all the details. He does meticulous work. So, and I want to thank the Historic Preservation Commission for what they do and for recognizing people so that people continue to think this is a valuable asset and want to continue the work in the community. So thank you.
Okay, would the owners of the Stover Jewelry please come forward? Harry and Cricket Wilson, just Harry. And we're also thanking tonight Tyler and Kathy Wilson.
Hi. I just want to say thank you, everybody, for being so thrilled that the clock is back. I really tried to have Ozzy Stoverud, who's 95, come down. He's a little bedridden, so he couldn't be here, and his son's up at home taking care of him, and it was just a big honor for us to put the clock back, to recognize the Stoverud family, to honor Missoula. I mean, every day people come in and thank us for the clock, and the funny story is my dad bought the store, and he asked me the first thing I wanted to do, and I said, I want to put the clock back, and he thought I was a little cuckoo. He's not from Missoula, and so he said, okay, we'll put the clock back, and the first article came out in the paper, and he thought, well, maybe this is a good thing for business, and so it was great, and he was really thrilled to do it, and we were really happy to do it, and thank you all very much.
We've been saying this for a long time. Historic preservation is good for business. Take that to your neighbors. Okay. Would David and Nancy Terrell from the Trask Apartments please come forward? And the Terrells tonight are thanking Carl Pozowitz and David Gray of Paradigm Architects. Please stand. And Doug Jackson of Jackson Contractor Group. Anybody from Jackson here this evening? All right.
I'll just say a few words. I was born in a country called England. You all know that? So it's nothing for me to think of buildings as being 300-400 years old. They're historic buildings. I went to a university 600 years old. But I think it's really, yeah, I know. But I think it's, I think it's really important that you're recognizing some of the historic buildings you find in Missoula today, because in future generations, 300-400 years' time, they're going to be looking back at that 400-year-old building, and they're going to be thanking you for what you did today.
Well, he said he didn't have much to say, so I was thinking of some things, but he's already said it. I'm originally from Deer Lodge, although I was educated in Missoula. And I went to that country called England, where I really became very interested in historic buildings. I remember our first restaurant I went to said that it was built in 1400, and I'm thinking Christopher Columbus wasn't even here yet. But I'm also from a pioneering family, and we are very much steeped in our history. And I think unless we hand on our history to our younger generations, we're really going to miss an awful lot. We have our people to thank who did all of the preservation for us, and I really thank the Preservation Society in Missoula for doing this for us, and just really encourage us all that we have to hand on this heritage for our future generations. Thanks a lot.
Bob Snodgrass of Bob Soenvac couldn't be here this evening, so the award tonight is going to be accepted by Steve Adler and John Keenberger. Would you please come forward? And these guys are thanking tonight John Keenberger of JJ Construction. John isn't here? John's not here. Okay. Ron Bruce of R&B Construction, would you please stand? Ron? Pam Schemer of Fine Line Design. Tom Severson of Community Bank. Anybody here from the MRA board? Okay, Carrie Larson from the MRA. Is she here? Okay, Katie Ward of Properties 2000. Katie? And all the subcontractors. There must have been a lot on this project. So, Steve?
Oddly enough, Bob was really sorry he couldn't be here. He was very excited about getting this award, and I've been told that when he was initially told, kind of leaked the news that he had won the award, he actually got kind of choked up and teary. That's how much it meant to him, and that showed all the way through the process. And when he said he couldn't be here and asked me to kind of stand in for him, I told him to please write up something in his own words, and oddly enough, he wrote it up in the form of a letter to me rather than an address to the crowd. So excuse the self-reference and try to imagine Bob's face, right here. So let me just read it real quick. It says, Dear Steve, thank you for agreeing to represent me at tonight's OPG Awards ceremony. I was thrilled to receive this award. It is a testament to all who worked on this project. I want to thank several people for their contribution, but especially my wife, Roseanne Moffett, who helped me through this very long and strenuous project. When I bought the building in 1989, I had no idea what I had bought into. The building condition and construction were sound. In fact, it was an impressive building inside with massive floor joists, steel I-beams, 2x6 tongue and groove fir flooring, and some of the hardest reinforced concrete the contractors had ever seen. However, I did not know that the building did not meet current life safety codes and would need to be upgraded at some point, even though it had been a retail location for decades. It was a tough decision to move downtown in the first place, and suddenly it got even tougher. I really struggled as to what to do. Should I stay, move, sell, and get out altogether? Would it be worth it to invest in the remodel? Well, it's obvious what happened. Steve, I can't remember exactly how and when you and I started working together, but it seems like 10 years ago, and I feel lucky to have found you. Thanks for all the time, effort, and guidance you and your staff put in on my project. I have to thank John Kinberger and Pam Scheimer, the general contractors, who rode the largest part of this project from start to finish and did a fabulous job bringing in all the right people and getting it done. It was a much harder and longer ride than any of us anticipated. Thanks to Ron Bruce of RB Construction for his fine work on all phases of the job. Thank you to all the subcontractors who contributed. Thanks goes out to OPG for such a wonderful surprise. I also want to thank the Missoula Redevelopment Agency, the MRA Board, the City Council, and Carrie Larson of the MRA, who personally worked on my project there. Lastly, thanks to Tom Severson of Community Bank, who treated me like a friend and was always full of encouragement. Tom, the check is in the mail.
It's a magnificent project, and it proves that it can be done. We can bring back some of these buildings and bring them up to code and make them accessible and viable for the next 100 years. So thank you again. The next recipients actually won 2 awards. I failed to mention that. They won This Esprit de Picasso's, and they won for commercial renovation and rehabilitation, as well as commercial restoration of original construction. And so would Bruce Miklas please come forward? And Bruce is also thanking Jay Kirby, architect, and I think Jay is here. Tom Bodette from Bodette Engineers. Marbo Christensen, who was the foreman. There we go. Steve Johnson for demolition and ceiling restoration. Steve? Don Garamone, contractor, Garamone Builders. Jim Pelger, electrician, Big Sky Electrical. Chris Paul for 4G's Plumbing. David Pick, Air Quality Heating and Cooling. Scott Wilson of Wilson Painting Services. And Mark Wielander, oh, there's more, wait. Mark Wielander of Fabricon, who did the awning. John Cook of Timberline Hardwood Floors. And Bob Holman of B&B Construction for the tile work.
Well, thank you very much. This is probably the last place that we thought that we would end up when we purchased the building. Our original plans were to do a small remodel on the building and move our record store there. And as we heard from the smiling Swede just before us, Bob at Bob's Vac and So, things changed radically. I think I remember the day exactly when it happened, and we were in there and we were doing the demolition and taking the plaster off the bricks and everything like that, and there against the front window, someone's banging on the door and jumping up and down, and it's Rafael Chacon screaming, "You've got a Gibson, you've got a Gibson." And I'll never forget that moment because it cost me more than $200,000. But it's been well worth it. It did really change the entire focus of the project, and we changed from the Fred Sanford architectural mode to something with a little more pizzazz to it. Jay Kirby did a fantastic job. And it's just really nice to be here with so many people that I know and have had wonderful experiences with in business. I'd like to especially thank Jeff Badnock, who's leaving the MRA. He's done a fantastic job for 20 years. Jeff, we'll never replace you, buddy. And Mark and Bedell Wheelander, who did the awning work. They've been in Missoula for 25 years and just do a fantastic job. Jim Marr, our local neighborhood activist from the other side of the river, who is constantly pounding the pavement, trying to make things happen for the hip strip over there on the other side. He's done a fantastic job for us. And thanks to the Historical Preservation Commission. I really appreciate all the work that they do. Stan Cohen, thank you. And once again, it's just nice to be here amongst so many people that we've had relationships for so long. Thank you.
Congratulations.
And the message of that award is that the great buildings are all around us. You just have to look carefully. Some of them are stealth buildings, you know, they're just hiding out. But thank you for that wonderful project. With the folks from the Florence, Bob Minto, please come forward. And the Florence is being honored again for commercial restoration of original construction, and here as well are Greg Niemoff of Sirius Construction, Paul Filicetti of A&E Architects in the back.
Standing up here with me is Kimberly A. McGuire Brown, who is the real heart and soul behind the restoration itself. I'll claim responsibility and credit for the vision. Actually, it was the passion for this building, but Kim's the one that gets the credit for ramrodding it and making sure that it was done right. I've got to tell you, there's another person that I have to recognize, and that's a gentleman by the name of John Clark. And there is a dispute, and that is who owns the building, whether it's me or John. John was the foreman who did most of the work around here, and if you watch John around here, you would know he owns this building. He does everything with such detail because it's been such a labor of love for so many people. I want to tell you a little story, and I'll keep it brief, but I grew up in Seattle, and I used to come here on the train to visit my grandparents when I was a little kid, and we used to come to the Florence for breakfast when I'd get off the train. We went here, went to the turf, and I remember it. And when I came back here in the 70s and went to law school and started my law practice here, I was crushed when the hotel closed and it became a derelict building, which was then turned into an office building. And I watched it for a lot of years. And starting in about 1975, when it first closed, was when my dream of restoring this building to its former self began. And I never let go of that dream, although I had no idea how we were ever going to get it done. My law firm moved out on Russell. We ran out of space. I moved into a space in this building. Pretty soon, my law firm, which was Wharton, Thane, and Haynes, bought the building, moved onto the top 2 floors, and Lord, did we spend a lot of money not restoring it, but just fixing things that kept breaking. And sometime later, in the late 80s, I stumbled upon an opportunity to start a little insurance company called Alps, which nobody in the world had heard of in 1988. And it became successful enough that ultimately it was able to buy this building. And it was at that point that we began to be able to do, to give this lady the facelift that she deserved. And I want to say, it really was a facelift. I want you to look at the doors over here and ask you whether they look like originals. They aren't. They were constructed by the people at Sirius, designed by the people at A&E Construction, Paul Filicetti, and they're 6 inches wider than the originals because code required them to be 6 inches wider. But they went to the detail of making them look like the originals, and nobody will know 100 years from now that they aren't. The kinds of things that were done, code compliance things, were done, I mean, it was just enormous detail. The sprinkling of the building is so unobtrusive that you don't even know it. We've got a few things that I'd still like to try and figure out how to do with fire exits. But I want to say one thing about this building. She's a grand old lady, and she deserves everything that she gets. There's one last thing. Somebody said, how much did you spend remodeling the lobby? And I can tell you the answer to that question is a lot more than $200,000. But I don't have a clue. But the other thing that I said to that person was it was worth every penny of it, because being able to watch this building come back to life and become a part of a vibrant downtown Missoula has been the beginning of the fruition of my dream. I will say this to you. I was very surprised when we got this award. I'm a little embarrassed to accept it because I did this very selfishly. I did this because I wanted this building to breathe again. So, Kim, thank you for all of the sleepless nights you had while you were beating on things, trying to get it done. Beating on, yeah, I want Greg to turn around, and you can see the flat spot on the back of his head where she kept hitting him with the 2x4. But Sirius Construction has done a fabulous job. And I want to say this to you, Greg. I have no idea what we paid you, but it wasn't nearly enough.
I'm just going to finish up really quickly because Bob said it very eloquently, but you know, it's easy to get choked up, like the Swede said, and because it's truly a labor of love. But one of the biggest rewards is hanging out in the lobby or having an open house and having the tens of, 100 people walk by and start telling me their story about the Florence, starting with my own parents who, spent one of their honeymoon nights here. Like Bob will tell me time and time again, when all else fails, do the right thing. And bringing this building back, doing what we could in this building, was the right thing. And one last line that I've learned through all of this is, I guess it was part of what the Missoula culture to meet me at the Florence. So please meet at the Florence and enjoy it. Thank you.
Can't say much more than that, but when was the last time you were inside a masterpiece? Wow, we're in it. Okay, the next award goes to the Stensrud, and this is for commercial restoration of original construction. Mark Kirsting, please come forward. And Mark is thanking Sandy Mitchell. Is Sandy here? And Eric Ebbinger, who was the lead carpenter on the project.
Hi. This project for me is one of the most incredible endeavors I think I'd ever want to take on in my life. Of course, with this, it's more of a story than it is the actual process of repairing a building that certainly deserves that attention and preserving a grand piece of Missoula's history. I moved to Missoula in 1998 with my son and just happened to be parked in the parking lot, which is now the Gold Dust. waiting to meet with my now partner Sandy Mitchell to look at a rental property for housing. And my history is I spent 14 years in Kansas City, Missouri, previous to coming to Missoula in historic restoration. So I basically feel like I was in training for this event. It so happens that in waiting for Sandy to show up to show the house, Merlin and his son were behind the building. And maybe some of you would realize that behind Merlin's building, he liked to save a lot of stuff. So Missoula's second dump was basically behind the building. And as you would have it, students would move out of the rental places in that area, and they'd take their couches. And since Merlin had a few items there, they thought, no big deal. So over a 40-year period, you can imagine what happened. We did load approximately 7 40-yard dumpsters of debris out of that building. Merlin saved stuff for 40 years. But anyhow, so I'm with my son, and I'm new to Missoula, and had been a truck driver for a couple of years, and so I'd come by the exit quite a bit, also hitchhiking and just teenage adventures, but I always had a queasy feeling when I would go by the Orange Street area exit, and I never really realized. Now, this is 20, 25 years ago. So Graham, my son, and I are sitting in the parking lot, and I'm pointing at the dump behind Merlin's building and not knowing that I saw Merlin, but I didn't know he owned the building and the property I was parked on. And he was a little bit paranoid, and so I'm pointing at the back of his building and then pointing at Mount Jumbo and how beautiful it is and how can this dump be here. And he's looking at me because I'm pointing at his property and going in the car. He doesn't know, what I'm saying, but he knows it's pretty discouraging. And so he walks over to the car and we introduce, and that was warm. And I just had explained to him that I thought it was a travesty that this is such a beautiful community and people take such care to keep it that way and picking up after themselves and maintaining a very beautiful environment, that this is happening. And he looked at the ground and, he was embarrassed and he said, well, I own the property, and that's when he told me that most of the stuff is the students. Well, actually probably about 2/3 of it is his. But nonetheless, my partner Sandy, I moved in the house, and Merlin saw me fixing up the rental house. I basically told Sandy that I thought her house should be fixed up too, and she was allowing me to do that. And Merlin was impressed with my work ethic and that I was taking it down to the bare wood, and I showed him my portfolio, and he was very impressed with that. And I do have somewhat of a gift with older people and kids, but older people tend to recognize my work ethic, which is probably extreme to a fault. So we're sitting on the back porch one day, and this man who's owned this building for 40 years, and it's his whole life, he looks at me and he says, I think I've been waiting for you. And he felt that I would save the building. And so I took on the challenge, and it was the most endearing period of my life to have had that experience. And I thank all the people who were involved in the process, and all the people that encouraged me and supported me through the ordeal. Was incredible. And I got to play Mickey Mouse in Fantasia when we took the roof off. Everyone knows of the summer of 2000 and no rain. Well, it rained when I took the roof off the building, of course. But thank you very much, everyone.
Would Craig Shannon and Shelley Hessler please step forward? Maybe. The award for residential maintenance and repair goes to the Shannon House, and it looks like Craig is here, and a few others. Craig and Shelley and the others are thanking Kim Shashi, the painter, Donald Vance for woodwork, Rick Lancaster Carpenter. Any of you folks here tonight? Please stand. Please stand, Rick.
I just want to tell you that Rick's phone number is 546-0862. And if you want a good carpenter, call me if you don't remember that number, and I'll tell you it again, because he's really good, and he's good to work with. We started the building, I think, in '95. We just started digging into it, and we salvaged a bunch of stuff from the Palace Hotel. Salvaged some stuff from a house First and Orange that they were tearing down. Ingrid, it's a little too close. And so, anyway, it's another labor of love, like all of you know. And it never stopped, and it only got better and better and better. Did a lot of rock work, and raised these children throughout the process. So, thanks again. I do think, too, I think we kept it under 200,000, by the way.
Looks like 200,000 is the magic number this evening. Thank you. And is Bob Holman here this evening? Bob is here because the Wilma is winning he's winning the individual contribution to historic preservation for his work on the Wilma building. And I'm just going to read the long list, and if any of these folks are here, please stand. Tom Roble, carpenter. Frank Peterson, carpenter. Bob Champus, carpenter. Jason Lonsky, carpenter. Jim Harold, versatile welding. Hal Brown, painter. Wayne Lundgren, painter. Printer Bowler, painter. John Jenkins, DTR heating. Chris Iyer, electrician, is that correct? Ron Lewis, electrician. And Eric Carpegna for the sprinkler system.
Thank you. A microphone and a live audience, not a good combination. A lot of people I would love to thank for this. Just first of all, the opportunity to be able to do the project in itself, but we are all involved in something, and I must say that for my wife to have been able to deal with me for this long, to go through this project, she deserves a lot of credit for that. As well as my son, who at the ripe age of 7 thought it was the coolest thing in the world to go into this huge building. At the age of 18, why do I have to come here anymore? It was a great project with many things that happened. Debris, I have a dump truck. Once a week, went to the dump for 10 years. I know debris. We made it up to code, which was quite an interesting feat to do it so that it didn't interfere with any of the operations as they went on. The building was still operating through all of it. The things that were kind of interesting was doing the elevator. We had one of the last manually operated elevators in the western part of the United States, which when doing a project on the 7th floor kind of became an issue because you had to round your lifts to when you knew there would be a commercial, because the elevator operators happened to watch TV quite often. Changing the elevator out meant the building was without an elevator for about 6 months, and the tenants, we only lost a very small amount of tenants, which I was quite impressed with. And Helen Vivian, who lived in the building the longest at the time that I was there, walked to the 5th floor every day and passed on here last year. It was an amazing thing just to see people carry groceries up 8 floors of stairs in itself, so truly appreciated an elevator. I have truly had a wonderful time doing the project. There's things that I just normally wouldn't have ever had the opportunity to do, except for the fact that I was able to do it there because of things that were ongoing with it. It was an interesting building. And I'm also proud to say it's the Wilma building. As the Florence is the Florence, it's the Wilma building, and there's none other like it around. And I'm glad that I was part of it. So I thank you very much for this award, and I'm very happy. Thank you.
So we do have certificates of appreciation for all the other participants in addition to the owners. So please don't forget to come forward and pick those up after we're done. Let's have one last round of applause for everyone who has taken part in these awards, and congratulations to all the winners this evening. I think it's fair to say that historic preservation is not cheap and it's not easy, but I think the rewards, both for all the individuals who participate, but this community as well, those rewards are immeasurable. So again, you have many people to thank and many people to pat on the back. So thank you all. And we have one final announcement from Cynthia Manning, our president.
Please all join us for refreshments in the back, and thank you very much.